Hey, welcome back to the Dabbler Bar. It's September, and that means it's Oktoberfest season, and everybody knows that Oktoberfest is synonymous with one beer style.
Festbier.
Märzen.
It's Festbier.
It's Märzen.
It's definitely Festbier. We're gonna hash it out though, because it's time for Dabbler Double Take. Two takes. Two takes.
Coming at you.
So for our opening arguments, Brian is going to be starting things off. He's going to be on Team Märzen. So Brian, what are we tasting first today?
All right, we're gonna go to Germany, and we are gonna be trying Paulaner Oktoberfest. I mean, this is a classic Märzen. And Märzen, I mean, it's the original. I don't understand anybody else that thinks that Festbier should be the beer of the festival, because this is what it was.
So talk me through a little bit of the history here.
Märzen comes from the German word März, which is the month of March. And they would typically brew this beer in March, drink it all summer long, and then it became the quintessential beer of Oktoberfest in 1872, Zach.
That's a long time ago.
It is. Now, Märzen came about after they started being able to actually use indirect heat to dry their malts. Before then, it got very smoky, so the original Oktoberfest was kind of maybe like a smoked dunkel.
Like a Rauk beer or something like that,
more
maybe?
of a Rauk beer.
Yeah.
But this is the modern beer that really hit home with the Germans for Oktoberfest. It's rich, it's malty, it's robust, it doesn't have a ton of hop character, and you want to drink it by the liter.
This is definitely, when you drink Paulaner's Märzen, you're getting that very malty, very caramelly, and I got to imagine that when we start drinking the American versions, it's going to be even more of that kind of flavor. That's, to me, the most defining characteristic of the Märzen, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's bready, it's malty, it's robust. Mm-hmm. And it's a little fuller body than what you get in a Festbier, which, personally, for me, I like it a little bit better.
Yeah,
it's filling. That's
fair,
all you
that's
need.
fair.
It's like liquid bread.
So what are we drinking here next, Brian?
Now, we're gonna go to America, and we're gonna go to Great Lakes, Cleveland, Ohio. This is a storied craft brewery right here in the Midwest. And I think they just brew great, historic, traditional styles. So let's give this a little try next to the Paulaner.
Color, very similar, that kind of coppery, amber gold.
Little to no hop character. It's malt. And it features that nice caramelly Munich malt that gives Märzen its unique color and taste.
It's I gotta say, it's hard to argue against this flavor. It tastes so classic. I think for most people in America, when they think of an Oktoberfest beer, they're thinking Märzen, right? Mm-hmm. That maltier flavor, that amber caramel color, and that bready, biscuity, richer, deeper flavor. And so I'm not gonna lie to you, so far, Brian's making a pretty strong case here. But if I may take the floor for a second, if you don't mind.
Please do.
So the wonderful people of Germany have been drinking Märzens for a long time, right? That was the most popular Oktoberfest beer for many, many years. However, during the 1970s, the German people and the German breweries started to notice that tastes were changing in the market. People were less interested in the sort of heavier, breadier, maltier, higher ABV Märzen style beers, and so the folks at Paulaner actually decided to come up with a new recipe that honestly bears a lot of similarities to a Helles lager, and that's what they ended up calling, after several years, Festbier. It was originally called Weizen, and now we're going to be drinking a Festbier from Tucher, who is another German brewery that I think makes a fantastic one of these. As you can tell, look at that color difference compared to one of these ones that we've been drinking. Oops, almost spilled. That we've been drinking earlier. So already definitely a brighter gold for sure.
It's much clearer.
Yep.
It's not as caramelly. You can tell right away that it might not feature as much Munich malt.
It's got that straw color to it, just like you'd imagine a Helles would. And the thing that I personally love about a Festbier is it's a little crisper. It's a little lighter drinking. There's a little more of that hop bite that you would get and a little more of that classic kind of lager snap to it. And to me, when I'm thinking about a beer that I'm going to be drinking a large volume of, which is an important factor for me with Oktoberfest beers, Fest beer is just so much more quaffable, it's so much more refreshing. There's a crispy snap to it that I think a lot of us that are starting to become lager fiends in America these days are really into. So while Märzen was a great historical style and still remains that way, I think we're moving into the modern era. It's 2021 now. We want a beer that's a little bit more suited to modern tastes.
I mean, I'll give it to you. The hop character in a Fest beer is really what makes it shine. I mean, it's got those noble hops that are earthy and spicy right in your nose and on your tongue, and it's great. But I gotta say, the flavor kind of just dissipates too fast for me, and that's where Märzen really, that robust malt character sticks with you, and it's kind of like filling and satisfying from a flavor standpoint.
That's fair, that's fair. Well, hey, you know, maybe this classic German version of the Fest beer recipe isn't doing it for Brian, so I'm gonna try to convert him a slightly different way here. We're gonna go with something from our local region. This beer comes from right across the border up in the Twin Ports. This is from Earthrider Brewing. It is their Fest beer. And let's see if the modern American version of the recipe gets Brian over to my side. So as we can tell, another really beautiful gold color on this one. Very similar to the Tucher. Let's see how it tastes.
I mean, clear as day.
Gotta love Germans, man. They are not interested in the haze craze whatsoever.
Unless it's Hefeweizen.
Unless it's Hefeweizen, that's a good point. The original hazy.
Mit Hef. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's got that noble hop character on the nose and in the flavor, just like the German style.
Much stronger hop character on this one than the German one too, I would say. This is definitely made with an American palate in mind. We really do like the flavor of hops over here, and I think this is brewed to actually accentuate that. I really like this beer a lot. I think they did a great job combining that hoppy lager character that I think a lot of us are starting to fall in love with. Again, us lager enthusiasts in America right now. But it still has that classic Fest beer taste. There's just enough bready, biscuity malt in there that you know you're drinking an Oktoberfest beer, but there's a zing and a crispness that really, to me, is what I want out of, again, a beer that I might be drinking a large, maybe 2-liter Stein or maybe even a festive glass boot of.
It's a nice, snappy lager, and there's definitely a place for that. Just so happens the place is not for Oktoberfest. I mean, this started in the 1970s. I'm talking the 1870s for Märzen beer. It was the original, and it is the quintessential.
You know, I gotta hand it to you there. Märzen's definitely got us in the history category, but older isn't always better, especially when it comes to beer. And in this case, I think that the flavor of Oktoberfest beers kind of grew up with the times, and they developed this recipe in the 70s. They've been perfecting it ever since. The Fest beer is the modern Oktoberfest, whereas the Märzen is the, well, let's just say it, it's your grandpa's Oktoberfest.
No, you said
old Oktoberfest. You know,
I mean, you dog.
It's okay, right? I think the cool thing about Fest beer, I don't want to be like Mr. Beer hipster here or whatever, but like everybody, see, like when everybody else thinks of Märzen, right? Oktoberfest, they're thinking of Märzen, right? So you bring in your Oktoberfest beers over to a party with your friends, maybe you're having an Oktoberfest gathering, get together, and you want to kind of wow your beer buddies. Bring a couple of Fest beers. It's a flavor that people haven't had before, and if they like beer, especially lagers, but they don't like Märzens because they're a little too heavy, a little too malty, have them crack open one of these, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at which one they'll return to. Just saying. So basically, what we're getting down to, I think, is that Brian tastes great. I'm less filling.
Tastes great.
Less filling.
Yeah. Well, you know, as long as you can drink it by the liter, you're in fair territory with Oktoberfest. And there are some amazing styles out there for both of them, but I mean, Märzen is still Oktoberfest.
I think Fest beer is the winner. Or maybe we'll agree to say that somewhere in between the two styles, there might be a perfect beer that's out there. Maybe. Are you down for the blending? I don't know. Germans.
Somewhere out there.
Somewhere out there.
Yes. So tell us what you think in the comments. Which is the actual Oktoberfest beer of Oktoberfest? Is it Märzen? Is it Fest beer? Let us know. And if you like this, you can find more beer reviews from us and more Dabbler Double Takes coming down the pipe in the future. Just subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our email newsletter. We'll send them right to your inbox.
Prost.
Prost.